presented itself a few months later when she spent a night at someone's house who happened to be a male, and he made an inappropriate comment. She latched onto that, and he was thrown off the training course, even though he never done anything. And the person who threw her off the training course, who was the trainer or the owner of the company, immediately responded to that based on what she said, even though he never got the evidence from him. Now, we've seen this happen in the Me Too campaigns and things like this. So there's a lot, in terms of men right now, there's a lot of fear in terms of approaching a woman, because it's not necessarily, here's the, they only have to feel that they are being hassled or whatever, for a guy to then feel fearful to even approach them, which doesn't bode well for the Western procreation, if you want to say.
Well, I mean, as a significant backlash of women are saying, I think headed by the famous film actress Catherine Deneuve, who said, we actually do want to be talked to, we want to be seduced, stop this stupidity and let common sense prevail.
Yeah, but it's not. It's becoming sad, and this is why. And I feel that social justice has done a lot in this respect. Look, what Harvey Weinstein did was he used his position of power to take advantage and use leverage over women to get what he wanted. Well, whether some of them, we've discussed this before, whether some of them accepted it to further their careers, and others and he forced himself on. There was.
That's a power differential.
That's right, but he rightfully did that.
But actually, you see, that is a power differential, but there are elements of that are actually a commercial transaction.
And there is a commercial transaction.
There would have been some ladies perfectly prepared to further their careers by doing that.
And some women do. Actually, women don't realise how much power they have sometimes, because their sexuality can actually kill all rational thinking in a man.
Power, that women have the ultimate power. They are Mother Nature. They are the ultimate decision makers in the world, not only sexually but financially. 80% of money spent is decided by the female, and so much so. Let's go straight back to the start of a conversation about wages. The number of women earning more than men has gone up by 80% in the last 15 years. So it currently stands at about 15 to 20%. It's also well proven that marriages are less likely to survive if a woman earns more than a man. It's well proven that a woman is less likely to choose a man who earns less than her. Typically, women marry diagonally and upwards socially. It's also been shown that men who earn less than women become physically and mentally ill more often. How about that?
Okay, why is that?
And that is because of men's, and this is me linking lots of psychological theories together. It's because men are more sensitive to hierarchy than women, and it's been well proven across all the animal species, across all of evolution, straight back down to lobsters, who even they share the same neuronal system and neurotransmitters, including serotonin, which is involved in depression and anxiety, that if you are lower down the hierarchy, your serotonin system is more deficient. If you are higher up in the hierarchy, your serotonin is more intact. And it's interesting that when you see someone depressed, they tend to hunch their shoulders. A depressed lobster will tend to curl up. Now, why would you say men are more sensitive to hierarchy? Well, all you have to do is look at animals again, because there's a big discrepancy between the number of children males have. So you'll have the successful male who has lots of fathers, lots of children, and you have the unsuccessful males who can't get the mates and father very few. But if you ever look at females typically mother or give birth to a fairly average number of offspring. Therefore, females are not designed to be sensitive to hierarchy. So whereas males are designed to be disagreeable because they have to jostle for hierarchy, females do not. Their role is to look after children, or should I be more specific in evolutionary terms, to look after the newborn. And therefore females are designed to be ultimately very agreeable, because in the first 12 months of, say, a child being born, you can't communicate with them, you can't reason with them, really, not fully, and therefore the child is always right at that stage. You have to accept them and instantly respond to them.
You know, I went to both boys' schools and mixed schools when I was younger, and look, if you actually go into the playground even now, I mean, from a young age, you will see that the culture in the playground is very different to the culture in the classroom. You know, women are, or the girls would be more compliant in terms of how they learn, because and that's why they're doing far better at school. Whereas
anxiety.
Men,
females are typically more anxious on the whole,
whereas,
on average.
Whereas men whereas the boys start showing their dominance in in the playground, and that doesn't change. That's human nature. That's the way. It's almost as though, and that's when they haven't been indoctrinated with what society has really fed us. Now, look, I've always said this, and I'll continue to say this: men and women almost have to work these days in conjunction if they even want a relationship, because the thing is, it's very hard, particularly in an affluent Western cultured area, that two of them can't survive on one salary alone these days, and women are almost obligated to actually go and work, because the thing is, a lot of the social justice in particular is directed to women have to earn the same as their counterparts, so they therefore have to go to work, whereas somehow some women are actually happy staying at home. And men are probably, in some ways, men have this nature about protecting women, looking after their women. Whether you want to agree with that or not, that's irrespective. Women's egos don't want to be see their positions as looking after the woman, producing for the women. Hence, the man buys the engagement ring for the woman. The bigger the engagement ring, the more love it shows them, which is a stereotypical marketing that the B has created. So the thing is, in terms of men, bigger is better. In terms of how women are stereotyped, the more, I wouldn't say fragile is the wrong word, but the more
fertile they are is better.
The more fertile,
the more curvy, the more rosy.
Men like women are more delicate. They don't want huge, aggressive, masculine women, because the thing is, they don't want to have to fight for control in that relationship. It's why men in some ways will marry down, whereas women will marry up. And that still happens. And women, in terms of the workplace, I mean, I heard this, that they always use, only a few women who are in high positions. Well, actually, that's because men are far more competitive, far more aggressive for those top positions. They're not going to give that up.
Women are also more sensible.
Women are more sensible in some ways. They're probably more better. And in fact, that's why you get more women in positions of human resources. And things. They're more people.
More nurturing.
They're more nurturing, more people-based occupations. In terms of,
that difference, by the way, is evident from birth. They've actually they've correlated it to antenatal intra-utero testosterone exposure to the brain. So the higher your testosterone exposure, the more masculine your behavior, even if you're female. But typically, of course, males will have high testosterone exposure. That's how they become masculinized. So this behavior is evident from under 12 months old. It is not taught socially, as some people say, and therefore that's why children are they're trying to treat children in exactly the same way at school, for instance, and give them the same type of toys to play and almost force them to behave in a certain way. That's why John Lewis has stopped stocking pink and blue clothes, and now it's only purple and green. This political correctness and identitism.
Purple and green today, actually,
and that's fine, and you look wonderful. In fact, that's more lilac, isn't it? But
and I get you. I get what you're saying, but it's becoming to. I think we're going too bizarrely the wrong way. And in some ways, people are beginning to fight back.
And in Norway, women tend to choose nursing and men tend to choose engineering, because in Norway is one of the places where people are allowed to do what they want rather than being forced to do what society says they should do.
And engineering jobs do pay more than
may happen to.
Yes, that's right. So, and the thing is, men who tend to go into sales type jobs, they're far more aggressive than that. Yet, actually, some of the best saleswomen I've hired in my past, some of the best salespeople I've hired in my past are women in their sales positions. But do you know how they close some of the biggest sales? They use their sexuality.
Of course, I do.
All right, they use that sexuality, and the thing is, you should objectify.
You know why?
You should objectify women that way.
A male wants to provide for a woman to the extent that they will want to give those female executives money.
And I said this in the last podcast last week that we didn't publish, was that, look, she showed me a woman in a high position. She's got a far less percentage of men to choose from if she's going to actually find a mate that she respects, which is why you find a lot of women, the higher their positions they become, they're unhappier they become in their relationships, and the less successful their relationships are, because a man who's stronger doesn't want to compete with a woman for their position in the relationship, and a woman doesn't want to go out with a person that she's going to have to a mother. If she wants to have kids, she wants to have kids. She doesn't want to marry someone or be in a relationship with someone that she's going to have to look after. Hence the reason that women will tend to lie about their if they earn more than the man, whereas the man will actually overcalculate that
because they're embarrassed, and that's their transference to that situation. But do you remember that even research shows that even female CEOs want to be looked after. Of course, there's bound to be the occasional exception to that, but the sex proportion is about 1-to-1 actually across the world. It will vary slightly according to different age groups, but it's not the fact there are less men available to these successful, powerful women. It's how they behave, because don't forget, they haven't always been successful and powerful. It's how they behaved along the way. Men will stay away from disagreeable women. A man who wants a homemaker and a partner in life is not going to choose a disagreeable woman, and instead what these ladies will get is what I call the inadequate idolizer, the man who looks up to them and fantasizes about them and idolizes them and places offerings reverentially at their feet. And of course, it's fun, it's nice, it's beguiling to be worshipped.
And those women, sorry, just one thing I to bring, which is valid. Those women will genuinely are more likely to actually have an affair because they will actually be in search of a man who is stronger.
Actually, slightly the other way around. Let me explain to you.
No,
because I'll tell you why. I mean, I'm not ruling it out at all. But what the typical scenario is this: that she will start losing respect for him, because women want to look up to their partner, because remember, the average woman is slightly more anxious than the average man, and it is being able to look up to him and feel secure with him that reduces her anxiety and binds her to him. If she has contempt for the man and looks down at him, he starts feeling inferior, she starts criticizing him. It's he who is more likely to have an affair with someone he doesn't feel inferior to, and this is where the woman is hit psychologically, because she sees the vastly inferior woman who she's been dumped for, and she feels really confused.
I think actually we've got 1 minute left, but that actually does work both ways in some ways.
Can do sometimes.
It does work both ways. So the man will actually feel more of a man if he goes for someone who's inferior, but the woman, because she has contempt for the guy she's with, she'll actually look for a stronger partner, even if it's a short-term promiscuous relationship. And it's happened quite often. Anyway, listen guys, we are going to leave it there, I think, and what we'll do is have a think about that. If you please got any comments, please let us know. And
remember, we're not licensed to give medical advice.
No, of course not.
And if you do have any questions, always go to your GP.
Okay, thank you very much. Thanks very much for listening, and goodbye.
Bye.